Okay, my name is Joe Chia. I'm a photographer, videographer from the South Bronx, New York City, and I'm the owner of Come Uptown Studios, a production studio based out of the South Bronx, available for rentals for everyone. Let's talk about film. I got into film during the pandemic, like most people that are now shooting film. And when I got into it, it was in May. I just had two major losses in the family that came completely unexpected. And I thought that I needed a new way to like quiet down the noise of not knowing when the lockdown will be over and how to, just trying to figure out ways how to cope with the loss. And I decided that maybe I should go into something that's going to require a bit more time. My initial introduction to film was in high school, at Bryan High School. And I was a menace, man. I didn't know how to sit down and stay still or like just chill. Because of that initial introduction to photography or film photography, I said, hey, maybe I need to go back into the process of shooting on film. So during the very first day of in-store pickup being reopened at Adorama, I got on a bike from the South Bronx and I rode my bike that I bought from a pawn shop earlier that day. I rode my bike from 149th Street in the Bronx all the way down to Adorama to go pick up this camera. This is my very first camera. This is a Nikon F3. This was the same camera that Gordon Parks shot with, and that was what led me to make this purchase as my first film camera as an adult, because I wanted to shoot with the same camera that the legend shot with. I was really into his work, and I was doing a lot of studying and reading up on him, and that led my purchase. So I ride my bike down to Adorama, pick up this camera. I think I got the camera and lens with the working viewfinder and light meter for under $300. This camera right now is probably to the moon, but that's neither here nor there. I made that purchased two rolls of film. They were both Ilford HP5, and I made my way back uptown. And I shot photos from 21st Street all the way back up to the South Bronx. And I finished my first roll of film that same day. The next day I finished my second roll of film, and then I came to the realization like, hey, how am I going to develop this film? So I had to do some research. And because I had learned in this professional lab in my school, I didn't have the tools necessary at home to develop film. So I had to go online and figure out what the appropriate tools were to develop at home. So I had to buy a darkroom bag. I had to buy a Patterson tank. I had to buy, there's like a little can opener to open up 35 millimeter rolls of film. I had to purchase chemistry. And that was the hardest part, right? Because from what I remembered, the chemistry process was the most daunting. You had to have a specific temperature. You had to have 4 different types of chemicals. You had to have a completely dark space. And it was just so daunting. And I ended up having to figure it all out. So what I did was I went and I purchased all of the necessary tools to get it done. And I developed and processed my very first rolls of film. So fast forward to the summer of 2021, we head over to Ghana and we go to do the ceremonial burial of my aunt who passed away during COVID. And as a dedication to her, I wanted to extend a project that had started just before the pandemic and dedicate it to her. So I named the project From Ghana with Love. My aunt's name was Love. And what I did was, at that point, I had purchased a Mamiya RB67, which is like a game changer for what medium format cameras were. And then I also had purchased a Pentax 6.7, partially influenced by a good friend of mine, Carl Ferguson, who had one. I just thought this camera was super badass. So I took these two cameras and my very first film camera, the Nikon F3, to Ghana. And I took 55 rolls of film with me. I shot 45 rolls of film, and I came home super excited to see what I had made. I documented a lot of that process on my Instagram page, and a lot of it is still like in the archive somewhere in the midst. But I personally developed 45 rolls of film, which were a mixture of E6, which is color slides, C41, which are color negative or like reversal. You have to reverse it when you process it, and black and white film. And I developed it all by hand. And that entire project was sitting here. From Ghana with Love. From July to August 2021, I had like almost a whole month to make these photos. And this, I could honestly say, is what kind of drove me away from making as many photos on film. This project right here. I came home with all these photos, and I was super excited to share them with the world. And I was super excited to take this and turn it into an experiential exhibit, right? You can't really see this from here, but these are E6 slides. These are amazing. I'll overlay video. But I took these photos. I made these photos. I developed all these photos. Then came the process of having to scan them. But I just needed to figure out a way to catalog it all so that I know what I had, and then figure out how I was going to turn these photos into an experiential exhibit and how I was going to get people interested in it. And that process and that task was just so daunting of an idea that I said, you know what? Let me pack these things up and get them out of here. So these cameras that I just moved off screen are valued at almost double, if not more, than what I paid for them. And I just don't use them as often as I would like. Actually, the love that I have for film has led me to make a lot of purchases that I don't necessarily use or haven't necessarily used the way that I should. I'll give you a couple examples, right? The 4 cameras I just moved off the screen are one, but then I also have like this massive film collection, right? And granted, it's great because I purchased a lot of this film before the hype, right? VH, before the hype around film. So this box of Ektachrome, this has an expiration date on it of 2021. So I know I got this box of Ektachrome for less than 40 bucks. These are boxes of Pro 400H that I think I got for like $35 a box. These have 2021 expiration dates on them. And then there's a motherload. All this film, some of it is expired, some of it is still fresh, was all purchased with the idea that I will continue to shoot or make portraits with film outside of my From Ghana with Love series. It's just life, man. Life really slowed me down in that process, and I want to get back to it. So if you've been paying attention to my recent posts on social media, I have been posting a lot more of my film stuff that you may not have seen. Pretty sure most of you haven't seen it because I was just making it and not posting it over the years. But this box of film right here is probably worth another couple $1,000s. You may be asking why I value my film collection at such a high number. It's because a box like this, a Pro Pack of Ektachrome 100, when I first started shooting film was like 45 bucks or 40 bucks, and that was really expensive at the time. These boxes of film are now $65 for the same exact box. In fact, they've changed the formula on the film and I really don't like it much anymore. And then other more popular film stocks have gone completely out of business. Some of them being my favorite, like Velvia 100 and Provia 100. Those are Fujifilm film stocks. Also, Fuji Superia 400 and Fuji Color 200 are now very difficult to get your hands on. The landscape of the film community or the film space for creators has become really difficult. In fact, a photographer that I enjoy their work on Instagram stated on Instagram the other day that he knows that shooting film is not beneficial for him. The cost of film is ridiculously expensive. The cost to actually process the film has gotten ridiculously expensive. Up until the From Ghana with Love project, I had developed all of my own film. I had scanned all of my own film and it had become really tedious. So I started working with film labs like Picture House in a Small Darkroom, Color House, Bleecker Digital, and Pro Image on 96th Street. And although they range in price from $10 to $15 for development, all the way up to $35, $40 for development and scan, it's just not in range. It's really difficult to justify spending $65 on a box of film and then having to spend on Ektachrome specifically another $30 for developments and scans per roll. So that means before you even get done with an entire roll, you're almost at like entire box, you're almost at like $300. And who's to say you won't like any of that shit because you can't see it while you're shooting it? All that to say, I'm not gonna let it stop me from shooting film. In fact, I'm running full steam ahead at it. So over the next couple weeks, you'll be seeing me shoot a shit ton more film. Yeah, it's expensive. So I'm not making it available to everybody, but I do have film sessions available at cost. And then I'll be working with certain people or certain projects on my own volition out of my own pocket. But not gonna let a little price gouging and hype scare me away.